Hey, horror fans, once again, it is me, the Horror Miser Money G. Continuing my series of horror films of the 70s, we're now going to do episode 4 is one of my favorite Jaws ripoffs movies that came out during the 70s. This one is called Grizzly. Now, Grizzly is a 1976 American horror thriller film that was directed by William Gridler. It was written by Harvey Flaxman and David Sheldon. Now, the film stars Christopher George, Andrew Pine, Richard Jekyll, and Joan McCall. Now, in this movie, an 18-foot tall grizzly bear terrorizes a state park, leaving a park ranger to save the day. Yay! Go get that big bear! Now, growing up during the 70s, one of the more interesting things that happened during the 70s was the release of Steven Spielberg's 1975 horror thriller film, Jaws. Now, not only would the film not only be a financial and critical success and launch the start of the summer blockbuster season, it would also launch a bunch of Jaws ripoff films. Yes, filmmakers decided to say, hey, look, that worked for Jaws. It can work for other types of animals attacking humans. Now, such movies that were released during the 70s was Orca back in 1977, Mako, The Jaws of Death in 1976, and my personal favorite, The Car in 1977. So those just were examples of the Jaws ripoffs that came out during the 70s. Now, they all have a similar plot to Jaws, whether it was a killer whale, a mako shark, or a killer car. You can tell that the filmmakers were simply copying the Jaws formula, hence the Jaws ripoff. Now, the one film that I'll be talking in particularly is the 1976 film Grizzly. Now, directed by horror film director William Gridler, who gave us Abby, Sheba Baby, and the Manitou. Grizzly, sometimes known as Jaws on Land or Jaws with Claws, is about a man-eating 18-foot grizzly bear terrorizing campers in a national forest. Now, it's up to Chief Park Ranger Michael Kelly and his fellow rangers to find and stop that grizzly bear before it kills everyone in the park. And hey, look, just like Roy Schneider in Jaws. He had to stop the shark before he ate everyone out at the beach in Amityville. Or Amity. You know, when researching this film, I found it interesting that Harvey Flaxman, the writer, got the idea after encountering a bear during a family camping trip. So he got together with co-writer David Sheldon, and they thought this would be an excellent idea for a horror film, especially after the success of Jaws. Hey, look, it worked for Jaws. Hey, look, maybe we can work with a grizzly bear doing the same thing what the shark did in Jaws. Have a man-eating bear terrorize campers in a national park forest. Now, director William Grinder, he actually found the script on Sheldon's desk, and he offered to find financing so long as he would be able to direct the film. He said, "Look, I love this script. If we get the financing for you, I want to direct this film for you." That's what he told. That's what he told Sheldon. So, Grindler would eventually get financing from Film Ventures International for about $750,000, and now they're on. Now they're in business to go on ahead and make this film. Yep, $75,000 to make a Jaws ripoff film. Now, another interesting fact that Grizzly was filmed on location in Clayton, Georgia, and they used many of the local residents as actors in the film. They actually did use a real Kodiak bear named Teddy to play the killer Grizzly. Now, he only stood about 10, 11 feet tall, and at the time was the largest bear in captivity. You know, so obviously, even at 11 feet tall, this bear is probably very still tall, even though the premise is that the killer bear in the movie is supposed to be 18 foot tall. But the fact that you even still have an 11-foot tall real bear in the film is it's still incredible itself. They're able to get this bear to do some of the stuff it does in the film. Now, to keep the cast and crew safe, the filmmakers use a piece of green string running through the shooting locations and a ticking kitchen timer to resemble an electric fence, trying to keep the bear contained in certain areas that they wanted to film in. Now, the filmmakers also instructed the actors and crew members to always stay on the camera side of the string, so that way they will not be in any proximity of the bear. Now, the bear didn't roar, as the filmmakers had to trick the bear into making motions of roaring by throwing marshmallows into its mouth. I bet that was fascinating. They would then hold the final marshmallow in front of its face, but didn't throw it, having the bear stretch for it. Now, obviously, the sound of the bear roaring was artificially made by the filmmakers. It's just like in Jaws: The Revenge, where your shark comes up and he roars. Now, unfortunately, as I always say this again, sharks don't have vocal cords, so they can't roar. Now, we all know bears do roar, but unfortunately, couldn't get this bear to roar like they wanted to, so they had to make it motion like it was roaring. But it still couldn't roar, so they had to put the sound effects of the bear roaring in the film. Now, of course, once the film was released, it received a ton of negative reviews from critics who simply called the film a complete ripoff of Steven Spielberg's Jaws. A lot of people didn't like it. I think Cisco and Ebert at the time only gave it like 1.5 or a thumbs down at the time when they were doing their reviews. No one didn't like this film at all. However, despite the negative reviews, the film would go on to gross over 38 million worldwide at the box office, making it the top grossing independent film in 1976. So people actually did like this film despite the negative reviews it got from critics. Yeah, everyone knows it's a complete Jaws ripoff. It didn't matter. People still went to go see this film. Now, as for me and the film itself, it was typical of the horror movies that came out during the 70's, especially when you had low budgets like this, very poor editing, okay acting, and okay practical effects. Now, overall, I did like Christopher George as Michael Kelly as he plays him as a tough but frustrated man, trying his best to stop the bear. It seems like every time when they think they have something on it, the bear does something else. You can see his frustration as the bear goes out and kills and kills and kills. They don't know how to do it. They don't know how to stop it from doing because it's a national park and this park is very wide, so he can be anywhere. Now, as the same with Jaws, we really don't get to see the bear turn around the second act of the film. And I like how the filmmakers are able to get some shots of the bear. At the beginning of the film, when he starts killing, the only thing we see is some type of a bear paw, and he rakes on the screen. And obviously, you can tell it's not a real bear. It's just like some probably mechanical looking claw that a cameraman throws at the camera screen. And we see some blood from the people and some pieces of the person getting ripped apart. Yeah, not the best practical effects, but what are you going to do? I mean, it's like this is 70s, so it was okay. Now, unlike Jaws, there's no real suspense or tension in this particular film. We really don't get, and we also don't get any of the intense music playing when the bear attacks. That's one of the things that was missing in this film, unlike with Jaws, and I also like to say the car. While we do have enough tension and suspense in those films, we don't get that here, and we really don't get any type of music when the bear attacks. Now, what we do get is a bunch of POV shots from the bear perspective, along with some growling, but nothing like we saw in Jaws. However, the film has become quite of a cult classic among horror fans, including myself, who enjoy the film for its corny and campy style of the film. Now, obviously, we know it's a ripoff of Jaws. Yeah, despite some of the corny lines and terrible dialogue at some times and the okay practical effects, but we still like it because we all know what this is. Now, eventually, a sequel called Grizzly 2 Revenge was made in Hungary back in 1983, and it has special appearances by George Clooney, Laura Dern, Charlie Sheen, and Tiffany Spao. Wow. However, it remained unreleased until 2020. Started playing in some film festivals before finally being released on DVD and Blu-ray on 2021. I don't know if there's any type of news. Haven't heard anything about they're going to remake Grizzly. It would be interesting to see if they actually remade this movie because I'm pretty sure now with modern technology, I'm pretty sure you can get away with a good horror movie of this aspect. I mean, if they did it, I mean, just like how that bear attack happens and the Leonardo DiCaprio film, The Relevant, if you can get something like that made, I'm pretty sure you could come up with a very interesting remake for this film. So, despite the low budget practical effects and the camping dialogue, this remains one of the better Jaws ripoff that came out, and one of my favorite horror films that come out in the 70's. It's like if one of the many horror films that I saw during the 70's, it wouldn't be high on the list. It probably some in the middle, maybe on the bottom, but I still did enjoy watching Grizzly. So there you have it, folks. That's my video for the day, guys. So if you did enjoy, if you did, please give me a thumbs up, like, and share because it does help out with that YouTube algorithm. Also, if you're new here, please hit that subscriber button, ring that notification bell. That way you'll be notified anytime when I put a new video such as this one. Once again, my name is Lamont Smith, better known as the Horror Miser Monty G, and always remember that horror rules. And I say in my next video, I'm out.